we also have a basket over there for people to put them into.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We have a basket back at the table
Okay.
for them to put them in,
Okay.
or
Perfect.
they can hand them to Cody on the last page.
Right here.
I think he's just gonna tell everybody to.
If you want to keep them, that's fine. I'll just have them hand them to me when they go to sit down.
Okay.
Okay.
Then they can hang on to them until they're done.
To Cody's. We're
In
flexible.
case they need something.
Yeah.
They might.
Like me and they need to read stuff.
What's your, what are you now? What's your rank now?
Deputy chief.
Office. No.
I'm just gonna ask everybody to wipe down the podium when they're done.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No. We're good to go? Just check. Andrea, we have you back.
I'm here.
Heather?
I'm back.
Okay, perfect. Jackson?
Present.
Perfect. And Joy?
I'm here.
Perfect. Thanks, you guys. Okay, we're good? We'd like to welcome everybody to our regular planning commission meeting this evening. We appreciate those here in attendance as well as those who may be joining us virtually tonight. We will get started this evening with a pledge of allegiance by our city attorney, Chase Andresi.
Please rise and repeat after me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chase. First, we'll go through a roll call. We have a full quorum tonight. In person here, we have Brody. Then online tonight, we have Jackson, Andrea, Heather, and Joy. So we do have a full quorum, although 4 are participating virtually tonight. Go to item 2.3, look for any conflicts of interest from the Planning Commission tonight. Seeing none, we will move on to item 2.4, approval of minutes for December 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from December 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
Motion by Brody, second by Heather. We'll do a roll call vote on this. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
And Joy?
Yes.
Thank you. So that motion is approved. We will now move, a couple of things, just housekeeping items before tonight. I'd like to look to the commission. There's been some talk about moving item 3.2 down the agenda to item 4 after 4.3. Reason doing so, that would allow us to hear this in the proper order, meaning we would hear the general plan amendment first, and then the zoning amendment, and then the subdivision. So I would look to a motion if the council is interested, if the commission's interested in making that change.
So moved.
I think that was Heather.
That was the Andrea,
Oh, Andrea.
Okay,
but I'd second it.
motion by Andrea, second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so with that, we will move item 3.2 after the agenda, after item 4.3, so that will be our last item of the evening. Before we move on, there are 3 public hearings tonight. And I can tell we've got a few people here to comment, so I will read through at this point right now the public comment procedure, just so you're all aware. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written form, and then tonight, due to COVID, we'd ask you to keep that form, hang on to that form when you're done, and at the end of the meeting, we'll have you hand that form to Deputy Chief Cody Stromberg here. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. This policy will apply to all public hearings this evening. And with that, we will move on to item 3.1. This does not have a public hearing tonight. This is a request for conditional use for a final site plan approval of Academy Village Place Phase 1. We'll turn over to staff.
Thank you. We're bringing up our presentation tonight, and following this PowerPoint, the applicant also submitted a short, like 3-minute animated a computer fly-through of this project that we would like to share with the commission and the residents of the city. So this is a project that the commission and I'm sure many residents have been familiar with. We have approved previous components of this property for development, but this is the first actual development proposal on this property. Within this zone, it's a commercial zone, these uses are technically a permitted use, but because of the scale of the project, the size of the project, city code does require that it goes through essentially a conditional use process and review. So essentially what the Planning Commission will be reviewing tonight and considering is approval of the site plan, reviewing the proposal against the development agreement, which was included in your packet for your review, and of course as well as the underlying zone. But in the development agreement, the commercial design standards that you were included really largely controls the development of this project. So that's the component that you really want to be looking at as you're weighing whether or not this project complies with those standards and what options or what conditions you may place onto this project as part of your decision making tonight. So we'll just go through a few slides to orient everyone on this project. These images are fairly large, so it might be a little slow. As stated in this summary, it's a 35,000 square foot grocery store approximately. There's also 2 inline commercial pads or stores. They're unnamed as far as any tenants. I don't know if the developer has tenants specifically lined up for the inline stores. But you will be seeing those building elevations as part of the approval tonight. There's 2 additional pads. Those are not in your packet as far as the building elevations. That's something that would have to be come back to you at a future phase. You're approving the site plan, but not the building architecture for those 2 pads. Mitch, that's just... Turn it off and turn it back on. Okay. Let's see if this works. Yeah, please. See if that'll work. So again, this is a 7-acre portion of Pod 35. Just to be clear, this is not all of that Pod 35. This is just phase 1 of that portion of the project. Next slide. You can see this is the approximate area or the vicinity of the project. The property is, phase 1 is all within this red commercial zone. It's the C2 zone. You've noticed that around it is this purple zone. It's a mixed-use zone. There's actually a pending zoning amendment that's before or will be before the City Council to remove that mixed-use zone from the project. But this phase of the project is all within the C2 zone. So that portion of the project or the zoning map doesn't apply to this. Next. Just a little closer look. Again, the Pod 35 is that kind of that northwestern portion of the two halves of the project. Next slide. Now you're starting to see the site plan. Again, you can see these future phases within Pod 35, and the blue is the grocery store, the Lee's Marketplace that you've seen in your packet and on the elevations tonight. Next. Within this site plan, of course, we have the parking that's being provided, landscaping, access from Real Vista Drive. We've been reviewing this for circulation for service vehicles. Obviously, the grocery store would have a number of trucks coming and bringing groceries and supplies. Our engineering department has been reviewing this and included a few comments or recommended conditions of approval if the Planning Commission were to approve this project tonight. But we have been previously approved a subdivision plan for this property. And so we've done a lot of the civil engineering work as part of those previous reviews that the commission has seen and had approved. Next slide. Again, you can see this a little more in context as far as what is going to be potentially coming in those future phases. Clearly, this is the anchor tenant or business within this part of the project. You can see that there is a proposal to have a future residential to the north of this project. Next slide. The landscaping plan that's been submitted, you can see the phase line within this project as far as what would be constructed in addition to the Lee's Market itself. Our landscape architect submitted some comments in your packet. Those would also potentially be conditions of approval. I know that she identified, some questions. There was also a response from the developer in your packet, a response to those questions for your consideration. Next slide. And this is the other half of that project. It just didn't fit onto one slide. Next. Building elevations that are shown. The architect on this is Babcock, and there's actually going to be two different building permits. Essentially, there's going to be a permit for the shell, and there's also a tenant finish permit that on the inside. And the developer has already been working with our building department requesting reviews. We've been kind of waiting for this meeting in order to really allow them to move forward. So they are ready to move forward once they have an approval or a decision from the Planning Commission. Next. Again, you can see those inline stores. These elevations you are approving, again, as part of your decision tonight. It's the out pads that are not. Next. Just another view of the same grouping of stores. We included all of these elevations in your materials. We didn't have separate colored renderings for the inline stores, but you saw them in the renderings, the perspective renderings earlier. Next. Yeah. I think there's just one more. So your decision tonight is you may approve the project as proposed. You may modify the project with conditions of approval. You can also table it if there's something that you feel like you need more information, you feel like you can't make a decision tonight. And we would, if the commission's decision is to table this request, we ask that you be specific as to what you want staff or the applicant to consider, amend, research, what is it that you want us to do in order to bring this back? As you know, the entire administrative review process of conditional uses is trying to identify what are the concerns, how do we mitigate those concerns, and work our way towards approving a project. And of course, you do have the opportunity to deny a request if it doesn't comply with the standards. But again, typically we're always trying to figure out what are the concerns, what are the problems, and how do we address them and resolve them. So those are the options for you. Now, if we could bring up maybe that animation, Mitch, in that same folder location. I'm not aware that any of these brands are specific. It may be just a typical for this center. The Lee's Market is the one that we know is waiting to go into the grocery store. As you can see, they've rendered this project in context within the actual topography and the mountain vistas of Herriman. You can see how they're addressing some of the grade changes on this site. We're aware that there is some sloping, and so there are a number of retaining walls that provide some tiered stepping of the site on this project. So the applicant, Wasatch Commercial, I'm sure is available to answer any of your questions tonight. This is not a public hearing. This is an administrative review item only for the commission's deliberation and decision. Any questions at this time? Okay.
Okay, at this point, we'd invite the applicant to come forward. If you wouldn't mind stating your name.
Hello, my name is Alex Dahlstrom on behalf of Wasatch Commercial Management.
Welcome, Alex. Anything you'd like to add to anything that's Michael's gone over tonight?
No, I feel like we're really excited, and we've loved the opportunity that we've had to work with the city, and this is a development that has been a really good work in progress, and we've enjoyed working with Mike and the rest of you guys, and are excited to answer any of the questions you have and get the ball rolling on this.
Okay. Any questions from the commission for the applicant?
I don't think so. I feel like we've gone over it several times, so great job on the renderings.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other comments, so feel free to take a seat, and we'll
Thank you.
call you back up if we have anything else come up.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we'll turn to the Planning Commission for any other comments, concerns, anything else wants to be addressed.
I just have a question from Michael. Michael, how do you feel about the walkability within this area?
I know that one of our primary concerns is ensuring ADA access, that we have ingress and egress throughout the site. That is still subject to further review and compliance with standards. And so anything that is not compliant would still be addressed as part of the final civil engineering on this project. Yeah.
I did see that they had, additional walking paths through the parking lot, which I appreciate. So just for safety purposes.
Yeah, I think overall it looks pretty good.
I did note, and this was an oversight on my part, we've been talking about how the pads need to return to you for a future decision. That's understood, the applicant understands that, but I did not specify that in a condition of approval. If you were to make a decision tonight, just for the record, if you would, state that pads M and N would return for an architectural review at the time of development proposal.
I was going to say, Michael, I noticed there were minor variations between the rendering and the plan, which for the most part appear to be related to drive-throughs. And so I would assume as those pads come through, we would be able to see the final version.
Correct, right. They're anticipating, of course, drive-throughs. That is the culture that we are developing within right now. But as far as I know, again, I'm not aware that there are any specific tenants that have been committed or identified for those sites. That just hasn't been shared with the city at this point in time.
I noticed the file was named No McD, so I was a little bummed.
I know we talked about landscaping coming back, correct, as well. Any other comments from the commission tonight?
Hey, Michael, what was the concern about landscaping?
Well, our landscape architect identified a number of kind of questions or concerns when she measured the project against the design standards, wondering whether or not it was compliant. We talked a little bit about whether or not there's an open space or community amenity within this particular phase of the project. The developer was suggesting that there may be other parts of the project that might be more suited to those elements. So we had just raised some questions. We're confident we can work through those issues with staff and the developer. Again, that's just up to the commission as to whether or not you want to allow us to manage that review process between preliminary and final, or if it's something that you would like to see brought back to you for a future review.
Okay, thank you.
And that, you know, if you were to make a decision like that, again, that would still establish a vested development right. It would allow the developer to move forward with building permit review and getting the project underway.
Yeah, personally, I don't see any reason to hold them up at this point. I think we can work through the issues and the concerns we might have. Jackson, did you have a comment?
I was gonna say it's looking good.
Yeah, I like the walkability. I'm impressed with the walkability and that it's gonna be a nice area.
So Michael, what did you say? So additional pads to come back for architectural review upon what phase?
So I believe it was M and N, Mike and Nancy. Yeah, but so obviously when they have a user and they know what they're actually going to build,
Yeah.
they'll submit building elevations to the city for review, and we'll bring them to the planning commission for final approval.
And I assume that could be done concurrently for their needs, right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I assume that pad approval and elevation approval could be done concurrently.
Yes, yes.
And something minor I'm noticing is just cart receptacles and where those are going to go and how that's going to play into parking.
Yeah, it could have an impact on parking. I mean, obviously, we'll ensure that it meets the parking requirement. But yeah, as the site is refined, it could have an impact on parking layout.
Okay, well, at this point, I think I'll look for a motion then. I think if there's no other comments, look to a motion.
I'll make a motion. This is Jackson. I'll make a motion for approval with recommendations as noted, 1 and 2, and a third recommendation to have pad approval for M and N returned to the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Jackson, a second by Brody. Do a roll call. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
And Joy?
Yes.
Okay, so item 3.1 is approved, vote of 6-0. 5-0. I can't count. Right, 5-0. Okay. Okay, with that being said, we will skip ahead now to item 4.1. Again, we are moving item 3.2 after 4.3 for those that may just be joining us. So we're going to move to item 4.1 in our legislative items. This is on for a public hearing tonight. So we'll turn to staff at this point. For any
We're
other-
right back to the same project again. So the city council approved a new zoning tool. It's an overlay. It's called Village Mixed Use Overlay. And the overlay was proposed by Wasatch, our previous developer. And that overlay largely regulates signage within wherever the overlay is applied. So now with that tool, the request is to apply that overlay to this property, pods 35 and 39, approximately 48 acres along Real Vista Drive and Academy Parkway. So again, City Council approved that ordinance in November 2020. It does state that it has to be a minimum of 40 contiguous acres, and that includes going across a public street. And so this proposal does satisfy that requirement. And this is the area of the project and where the overlay would be applied. Earlier site or aerial photograph of the property. And this is the underlying zone, so the overlay is in addition to the base zone of the C2. commission had previously approved some plats for this property. This one has been recorded. You may recall that we had also approved an 18-lot subdivision amendment that goes on top of this plat. That one has not been recorded yet, but it doesn't have to in order to apply the overlay. The overlay is a separate request from the subdivision. Of course, that's the other half. This is, again, just where the overlay is being applied. And I included in your packet a series of elevations of signage. We don't really need to go through that tonight, but if for some reason you want to look at that, as you know, when you reviewed and recommended this new zoning tool, there was a standard or a condition that the sign, that the developer present a sign development request, and the commission will actually look at the location of the signs, the designs of the signs. All of those standards will be brought back to you for approval before there'd be any construction. And so that's another application that would come to you later if this zoning overlay were approved by the city council. So the planning commission's role tonight is to make a recommendation to approve or deny, to recommend approval or denial of the overlay to the city council. The city council will make the final decision on this matter in a future public meeting.
Great. Thank you, Michael. The applicant have any further you wanted to add? Alex? You guys are okay? Okay, I assume so. Okay, well, at this time, we would like to open the public hearing. Wendy, are there any comments on this item online?
Yes, we did. One no,
4.1, no. Okay.
only 4.2 and 3.2.
Okay. Okay, again, at this point, we'll open the public hearing then, if there's anybody that has a comment on this item. Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public comment at this point. Turn to the commission for any comments, motions, concerns.
Mr. Chair, we should probably give the applicant an opportunity to address the commission if they so choose.
Yeah, they said no. I did. I asked them and they said
Oh,
they're
okay,
good.
I apologize. I
No,
missed
you're
that.
good.
Okay.
You're good.
This is Jackson, and I don't see this as an item against the overall overlay. I think that's great. Though I just have to say I'm not a big fan of the little monument sign, or the monument sign where every single tenant gets a little teeny space to try and attract people's attention at 35 miles an hour. So I see those as a little bit of visual noise, but in general, I think the signs are nice, just not that every tenant has to have their little piece on this monument sign. I think that looks a little, I don't know, for lack of a better word, tacky, but otherwise, I like the overlay zone. Yeah, that one there. Every little person getting their little 12-inch by 24-inch or smaller piece of sign just seems a little redundant and visual noise. But overall, I like the overlay. And I especially like the big signs that are out on the 85. I think those actually make a lot of sense.
They're sharp.
Again, these are just concepts. They were shown to really provide scale, anticipated locations. It's my understanding that the development partner has a new concept that will be submitted for your review later.
Great. Any other comments, or I look for a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to request the rezone to add the VMU Village Mixed Use Overlay.
I'll second.
Approve. What's that?
Yeah,
Oh.
recommend
Gotcha.
approval. to the
Yes,
city, yeah.
I apologize. I'd like to make a request to refer to the city council to rezone to add the VMU overlay zone.
Okay, motion by Brody,
I'll second.
second by Joy. Do a roll call vote. Brody,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
and Joy.
Yes.
Okay, that motion is approved, or recommend approval to the city council, 5-0. Thank you for being here, guys. We appreciate it. Appreciate the project you're working on up there for us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we will move on to item 4.2. This is the general plan amendment, request for a general plan amendment from 31.9 acres of low-density residential to 30.4 acres of agricultural residential and 1.5 acres of commercial. And this will be on for a public hearing. At this time, we'll start turning over to staff.
Thank you. This property, as you mentioned, is currently low-density residential. And primarily, we're needing to amend the general plan to introduce future commercial use on the corner. This is going to work for me again, Mitch. Yeah, I know. You want to try and advance these? So again, this item and the next two items are all for the same project. So we're amending, so the general plan designates the property as low-density residential, 31.9 acres in total, currently zoned A1 agricultural. So ideally, if you're following the general plan, a low-density residential would encourage or guide a potential zoning amendment to be some type of an R zone. The current zone is A, and based on previous projects in this city, the applicant was advised to consider a rezone of some type of A zone, so an 8.5 or an 8.25. But that is consistent with the general plan designation of agricultural residential. It's a different designation in our general plan. So our code requires that if you're submitting a zoning request, it's supposed to be consistent with the general plan. If it's not, then we also should entertain a general plan concurrently with that zoning amendment. So again, that's why we're rezoning or having a discussion about the land use plan for the corner commercial and then doing an agricultural residential. So this is the current general plan map. You can see the subject property highlighted with the red star. We're a little closer on this next image. You can see how it comes out to the corner of 6400 West and 134 South. Again, that light yellow is that low-density residential zone or designation in the general plan. Currently, the property has that A1 zone, and they're asking for the 8.25. Although the 8.25 allows for essentially a quarter-acre lot or a 10,000 square foot lot, there's also that underlying density requirement of a minimum or 1.8, and then they may qualify up to 2.5 if they meet certain density standards. So the commission can consider the request. You can recommend approval to the city council as it's proposed again. You can modify it, table it for future consideration, or recommend denial. Again, your recommendation moves to the city council for a decision. We made a finding in the staff report that this item is consistent with the next request. So we did recommend approval based on that.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jackson.
I was going to say, I like the commercial on the corner. I think that's a nice addition to our city.
Great. Okay, we're going to look to the applicant at this point. I'm assuming applicant with us online tonight? Oh, you're here with us, great. If you wouldn't mind coming up forward here, stating your name.
Jeff Neal. I'm representing the reserve at Sky Ranch. I do have 3 partners, all local custom home builders. I don't know if I can just tell you who they are, just to kind of in review. The Jake and Josh Thorne with J-Craft Homes, Dave Frice with Elevation Homes, and Craig Bottom with High Country Homes. All three builders are local, custom, semi-custom home builders. I don't know if you had a chance to review the pictures we sent over with the type of homes they build, but they don't do a lot of marketing because they don't have to. Most of their business is word of mouth, relies on a happy past client. So they keep busy because they just do such a good job of construction, giving a client what they want to build, right? So our goal is to have the best project, if not the best, one of the best in Herriman. So don't know if you have any questions.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Neal?
Just a quick thought on the commercial. Have you got a vision for what's coming on the commercial piece?
We've had meetings with the neighborhood, and then from our DRC meeting, we're going to try to do something that helps the community but we haven't selected a partner for that yet. We're planning to bring something through at a future time on what we're actually going to do on it, but we want to do, the C2 zone. Pick something that the neighborhood would like, and that, from our neighborhood meetings, we got a good feel for what they would like to see there, and from our meetings with the city and staff, gave us some good ideas too.
Great.
I know there's some concerns about fencing. What did you guys discuss in the meeting about fencing?
So in our DRC meeting, we brought a plan in with 69 lots. We have reduced that to 60, so we're just under 2 units per acre. So we've really reduced that, made bigger lots. I think we've got, just looking at my notes here, we've got 11 half-acre lots, 20 lots over 0.4 acres, and then just through our DRC meeting, you gave us some good feedback. So we've made them different sizes and, provide a buffer along the west line for all those are half acres to provide a good buffer. And, I think our smallest lot in here is a 12,000 square foot lot, 12,500. So really nice shaped, bigger lots.
Variety too, yep. What about fencing? I know there were some concerns about fencing. Where have you landed on fencing?
So part of that, we hired a landscape architect company, PJK Design Group. They've met with the city's landscape architect and designed a good landscaping plan. And as part of that, our fencing is on that too, and we're doing a 6 or 8 foot masonry fence along the main roads, and then around the commercial, separating that from the residential. And then we plan to do a 6-foot privacy around the exterior, with the other adjoining properties. Interior,
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
What material are you using for the 6 foot?
Whatever the city determines we need to do, I guess. We've been trying to work with the city to in your landscape architect, the city kind of pick a good product. Not wood, though. I can tell you it's right. Something low maintenance, vinyl or some other product that's low maintenance.
I'll ask Michael a question after we get to that part.
Okay. Okay, well, at this point, Mr. Neal, go ahead and have a seat, and we'll call you back up. We'll probably have you come back up after. I think we'll have some comments tonight.
Yeah.
We'll give you a chance after the public comments to maybe address some concerns that might come up. So,
Perfect, yeah.
so stand by, and we'll have you back up here in a minute.
Okay.
So,
Talk to you in a little bit.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point then, we will go ahead and open the public hearing. Again, fill out that form and hold on to it. If you would state your name for the record as you come forward. And then also when you're done, there's some wipes here, if you don't mind wiping down that microphone and the surfaces there after you finish, because I'm guessing we'll have a steady flow tonight up there. Again, you'll have 3 minutes if you're an individual or 5 minutes if you're representing a group. So first, I think we'll actually turn, Wendy, let's do the online ones first.
The first comment was received from Travis Law, stating, "I'd like to know what the city is planning on doing to address the increased traffic on 134th and 134th South and 6400 West. With this new large development and the one south of it, having both roads at 2 lanes isn't going to cut it anymore. The traffic in that part of the city is getting worse with all the new housing development going in." The next comment was from Shawnee Wright, stating, "I would like to express concern over the widening of 134 South and above 6400 West. This will cut into our property significantly and put traffic really close to our home. We have been assured in the past that this road would remain a country road without the sidewalk, curb, and gutter that would cut into our property. The road was never intended to handle more traffic than the houses that have frontage along it. If you plan to go ahead with this against our will, how are you planning to pay for it and maintain it?" And those were the only 2 comments received on email for this item.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, at this point, we'll go ahead and turn over to any comments that you folks might have tonight.
My name is Christopher McMurrin. I'm here on behalf of my father, David McMurrin. In regards to the commercial property, previously we spoke about the holiday that already exists there and the amount of light that we receive. We just asked that something like a retail store or a restaurant be put there, preferably a small business that can, contribute to the city. And then secondly, we asked and expressed concern for a barrier for our property against this development. We'd like a 8-foot precast wall around our property. You can see that they're planning on putting a masonry wall separating their commercial property from their residential property, but from my understanding, they don't plan on putting a precast wall or a masonry wall around the people that already are there. And we're just humble people. We want our privacy and our quiet. And from my understanding on the layout, we'll have, I think, 4, maybe, well, I could be wrong, but I believe we'll have multiple properties that are up against our property, and we just want to curtail any issues with I don't know what you would call it, difference in zonings. And thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Christopher.
I'm Boyd Hamilton. I live at 6513 West, 13400 South. I'm concerned, I brought this up at the last meeting when they presented this, about the road coming out at 6500 West, out of that subdivision. You've got 2 roads coming out of that subdivision on 13400 South within 225 feet. And I objected to the one coming out into my house, and I talked to Jeff about it that night, and he said they'd look at that. But and then he came back, he called me today, and he said the town wouldn't allow him to stop that. We wanted to put I suggested they put a cul-de-sac there. That would make their value go up on their property because they could sell that property for more. And that's a big concern that I have. Also, on behalf of the widening of that road, they promised us, went clear back to Mayor Crane when they shut that road off from going around from Danzy's. He says, don't fight us on this. Let them close that off because it'll cost us a lot of money to fight them about cutting that road. So he says, we'll never let that go over a 60-foot road. Then they came back and they widened it to a 66-foot road. Now you want to go to a 68-foot road. What's going to be next? Are you going to go to an 88-foot road? If you are, you're going to take all of our homes out through there. Put that road out on us. I'm just really against that. And what are you going to do with your speed limit on that? Right now, it's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and people fly up and down that road terrible. If you widen that road, then you're going to, I'm sure that you'll up the speed limit. It's 45 miles an hour down below there. And that's too fast. We've been promised that they'd keep that road a country road. And so that's my two complaints, but I'm one of a voice of five in our homes, or in our business up there. And we give 6400 West all the way out. We donated that property to the town. And I, for one, out of one of those five, I'm against donating anymore. You're going to pay for it if you have to buy it, or if you want to widen that road. You're going to pay for ours. That's my vote on it.
Thank you, Boyd.
Lamont Hamilton, 13420 South, Rose Canyon Road. My concern, in fact, I like the project. It looks nice. I think it's a nice project there overall, and what they're doing with that, and it suits the area. I'm right on that corner, and so as Boyd said, we've had some experience with the widening, with the road, with now a red light. When I built my home there, it was a dirt road on 13400 and so forth, so we've seen a lot. But my only concern is the widening of that road also. We have got to, we'd like to keep it to where it's not taking more of our property. As Boyd said, we donated that to the town, clear out to where the Rose Canyon Road turns up, so we'd like you to consider that. We felt like that, if you could keep that at a 66 foot, that's what we had agreed with. We would very much appreciate your consideration for us in that point. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I think we're probably okay, but I'll do this anyway.
Thank you, Lamont. Appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Kenny Alton, have a property on 134 South, 6319 West. I have a couple of concerns. You mentioned the A1 is currently at 1 acre lots, correct? And you want to change it to a little bit of commercial and whatever the other residential, low density. You actually stated that they're going to add 1.8 to 2.5 homes per acre. On the paper, it says they can go up to 3. That's what you have on the agenda, 0.3. So we need to look at that, because what's stopping them once we approve this to go to 3, 3.5, 4? I think that's a concern. I think it needs to stay at A1 and acre lots. I have an acre lot on off 134th as well. We have equestrian horse trails that we have given the city easement to, that we can't take back our property at that point. There are no agriculture easements for horses, walkways, pathways for people to get from that side to the other side of 6400. I think that's important that we need to look at. because we are still a horse town. We have a nice rodeo up there. People need to be able to get up there without having to travel their trailers or the horses up there in trailers. And there is no possible way to do that within this plan that they have currently. What you have here is all this residential here. I was told by the city that we were going to focus on more commercial type properties. I do own a property that is listed at OP, and it's an acre, and I could split it to half acres, but being told no because your plan says that it has to be commercial. So we need to look at that as well. You got a lot of traffic right now coming up 134th going west across 6400. We have the credit union at the corner. We have the business that has the dance studio and a couple other businesses, a dentistry, I believe, and which has a double line. And people are stopping to pull into those locations before the stoplight, and it's causing quite a havoc and possibly a couple of accidents there at the light because of that, because they're crossing the double line when it's actually against the law. So our lines are corrupt there. The infrastructure that we have for the road going both ways on there is not going to handle 60 new homes with minimum of 2 cars per home. At 120 cars, you got 2 entryways entering off of 6400 heading to the north. So you're going to have traffic backed up right at that light. There's not enough room for 4 or 5 cars to turn slowly in time where you got people coming down, going through the light at the green light. So I think we need to take a look at this plan a little more diligently and look at the acreage, look at what's best for Herriman, not just what's best for this corner here, and go from there. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Ken.
My name is Carly Richard. I'm at 13321 South Kokomo Court. I basically just wanted to reiterate the concern about the commercial property. The lighting, like was said before, the holiday produces quite a bit of lighting, and we just wanted to make sure that it was going to be something that wasn't going to be open all night for that reason. Another concern that we had was the 8-foot or 6-foot wall or fencing that they'll be putting up against the west side of the houses, basically where we are on the west side where the half acres are. That's horse property, and the new housing, the people who are in new houses aren't going to be wanting to look at horse property or look at animals probably, so we were preferring that to be 8-foot and be concrete or precast rather than like a vinyl or something like that. So that was one of our concerns. Another concern my husband had was power lines. He was concerned about the power lines back there. I unfortunately don't have his notes and he is not here, but he was concerned about them, if they were gonna bury them, if they were gonna have new ones. Hopefully there'll be another meeting so he can talk, so you guys will know what he was concerned about, but he's concerned about those. And I also wanted to reiterate the traffic that there is on 134th. People do fly down the road, and it is very small. It's 25 miles an hour. People live right there. So, I mean, I'm just reiterating what other people have had concerns about as well. I don't think I have anything else to talk about, but thank you.
Thanks, Carly.
Troy Rushton, 3266 West Water Street. I'm actually here on behalf of my parents that live at 13232 Rose Canyon Road, 6400 West as it's known now. Growing up in Herriman, my perspective is I'd like to go back, but it's not realistic. This is a good project. You know, Preston and the Butterfield family, long-term residents, worked for them for years, as most of the people in the area did. And there was always a question, what's gonna happen with it? Acre lots are not realistic. Herriman, you don't have water. You have an acre, you have dirt. You have horses, but you can't do anything really viable with it. And these builders, they do good projects. And so when, you know, my folks told me what was happening and we started hearing more about the projects, it is a good addition to Herriman. And it's a, you know, a development that I think you'll be proud of. The traffic is a concern, but again, you can't go back. You know, people are gonna live somewhere. Herriman's a good place, Utah's a good place. But if anything, if you can direct traffic off of 6400 West, the stretch between what I call, you know, the main road and 134th has not been widened. You have a power line on the east side, which limits widening on that street. It's gonna have to be on the west side. That's where my folks have lived since 1960. You know, my aunt and uncle are along that stretch too. So we recognize you're gonna have to do something as traffic builds, but you know, do it to where if you can direct the traffic towards 134th and send them east from there, I just think that's something that needs to be factored in. But ultimately, I think this is a good plan for Herriman. And again, it's builders that have a good track record. They've done a number of projects that I'm aware of in Riverton, South Jordan, and it's something that does add a lot to the community. So I think it is a good project.
Thanks, Troy. Okay, with that being said, any objections to closing? One more here.
Looked like there were a couple other people back there. I wanted to give them a chance to go first. My name is Walt Hoffman. My address is 7626 Mountaintop Road, Herriman. I'm here representing the Butterfield family who have owned this for about 80 years. I've known them for quite a few years, and honestly, they're one of the nicest families that I've ever known. Because they're not here, I want to give them a face and I want to name them. Father was Preston. The mother is Betty. The siblings are Rich, John, Kevin, Jim, Tracy, and Lee. The father, who bought this property in 1943, raised his family here. And he is the great-grandson of Thomas Butterfield, who helped found Herriman. All of the siblings, as you can imagine, worked on the farm. And now they're at or nearing the age of retirement. They've waited patiently to sell, and they've graciously put up with all of the growth in Herriman, including all of the subdivisions to the north, south, east, and west. I just wanted to say something now about the buyers, Jeff, Craig, Dave, and Josh. In the time that I've worked with them, I've grown to respect them. It's a little bit unusual. It's not typical, but they've been great to work with. I know that they've spent a ton of time and money on this subdivision so far. I know that you guys might comprehend this, but I doubt that most people understand that the time and expense that goes into getting to this point on a subdivision request. They have bent over backwards to accommodate the requests of the city and the neighbors. I'm not sure if, a lot of you may not be aware of this, there's a major irrigation line that runs through the middle of that. It has been unbelievably difficult and complicated to get that to go to the satisfaction of all parties, and they have bent over backwards to do that at their expense. They've also agreed to, at their expense, demolish and remove some of the buildings that I think are probably beneficial to the neighbors to have removed. It's not going to be cheap. They haven't complained about it. In my opinion, I have lived here, obviously not as long as the Butterfields, not as long as the Hamiltons, but I'm guessing I've probably lived here longer than most of you. I've seen the very first subdivision go in, like the subdivision. They're across from Smith's back in the late 90s, mid 90s, and I've watched each subdivision go in. In my opinion, as a resident, this is one of the best subdivisions that we can hope for in this spot. They're not asking for townhomes, they're not asking for condos, they're not even asking for tiny lots. These are nice big homes on nice lots. And I just want to say,
Well, sorry to interrupt your time, so if you could wrap it
I'm
up.
representing
You're
the
good.
Butterfield family. Does that qualify?
Okay, you want to go to the 5?
Thank you. Just have one more quick comment.
Okay.
There's been a lot of comments about 134 South, and I just want it to be noted that much of that traffic is due to subdivisions from neighbors who have already developed. I would guess, past that intersection, there are thousands of homes that have been developed. I've watched it. This is 60, so I just want you to think about that. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Walt. Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, does the commission see any need to keep the public hearing open this time?
Yeah.
I don't see a need. Okay. At this point, then, we will go ahead and close the public hearing for this evening on item 4.2. At this point, I kind of wanted to, Mr. Neal, I wouldn't mind calling you back up if you wouldn't mind addressing, if you want, some of the concerns that were raised tonight.
I'll make sure I wipe this down this time. Yeah, just related to the entrance, I don't know if you have the plat handy, but that third entrance,
Yeah, it's in the next, in the subdivision presentation.
yeah, so on that entrance, when we came for our DRC meeting, it was brought up that you would like to see, not see the two, just the two entrances off the roundabout going and off into different roads, that a third entrance was suggested to help reduce traffic on the roundabout. And also so we have more entrances out of the subdivision to limit traffic and to make it a better, way to exit the subdivision. And again, related to that too, that's why we stubbed a road to the north. That was also a request that we accommodated. We lost a lot doing it, but we felt it was worth that to add that at your, it was requested in the meeting that we have more accessibility to the subdivision. So any questions on that separate entrance?
Not
How we
right now.
did
I
that.
think we'll
If we
turn
did
it
a cul-de-sac, that wouldn't have succeeded in giving us that extra exit out of the subdivision. So fencing was another issue that was brought up. We plan to meet the city standards, whatever those are. Most residential communities, you have concrete or masonry separating commercial or a high traffic from residential. And then interiorly, when you have residential against residential, it made sense to do more of a 6-foot privacy fence so it doesn't look Like, and we'd had discussions in our group already about building our fence far enough away from the residents who have horses. They're existing fences now. So we plan to build it far enough away that their fences will still do the job they're doing now to keep making sure their horses are, and whatever animals they have are maintained with their existing fences. I think those were the only two issues. Yeah, are there any others that you'd like me to address?
I think a lot of it, we're gonna have to lean on the city for a lot of the 134th type stuff. I don't think that necessarily falls exactly under you, but I think we can, anything else you can?
I wanted to address one comment about the density. So the general plan designation for agricultural residential, that's correct. It does go up to 3.0, but that doesn't establish the development regulations. That's just trying to signal what are the future land uses that we're trying to encourage in our city. Currently, the general plan is saying we want low-density residential. But if we want to have agricultural zones in this area, then it needs to change to agricultural residential. So that designation says you can go up to 3.0. The zoning is what establishes the development density, and the 8.25 is the smallest agricultural zoning tool we have, and the maximum density that you can have in that zone is 2.5. You can't exceed 2.5 using that tool. So so that's the difference there between.
Well, and I was going to
those
make
two.
the comment too, we will see the subdivision later tonight, and we will approve that number of units, so they'll be tied to that number of units at that point, so.
Right, I guess, yeah, and so it's unusual probably to have 3 actions in one meeting, but,
It is, but-
our subdivision, we already know what that's gonna look like if you
Right.
approve it.
Right.
And it is under 2 units per acre, which is way below what the max is, right? So
Right.
we did that on purpose to have bigger lots and following the advice in our DRC meeting also.
Great. Okay, I appreciate it, Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one last question I guess I should ask. In switching to agricultural, will there be animals not in this community?
There are some limited animal rights that come with the 8.25 zone. I have not heard that is an objective of this particular development partner. They have been, as you know, they came before you a couple of months ago and talked about the product that they intend to build, larger homes, larger lots, primarily residential in nature, but
Okay, any other comments from the commission tonight?
I had a question on parcel 3, where it's on the roundabout, kind of has an odd shape. Concerned about like the resident getting in and out of that parcel.
so right now we're looking at the general plan,
Yeah,
then we'll do the zoning, and then
Sorry, I'm
we'll
jumping
do the
ahead.
subdivision, yeah.
Gotcha.
I'll hold that question, right? I would like to bring in staff as far as 134th. I heard a few objections, a few concerns about the development itself tonight, but a lot of what I'm hearing, and I share the concern, is 134th and 6400. So I don't know who we want to turn to as staff, Jonathan or Josh. Josh, you want to go ahead and take this?
This is Josh in engineering. So our transportation master plan has that road being 68 feet wide, and the way that cross section looks is, a center turn lane with a lane each way. So that's where that right of way width is coming from. And that's why we're asking for that dedication and to go to that width.
And Josh, can you tell us what the plan is for that? Just so we understand what the plan is there, long-term or short-term,
So yeah, long-term, and that's built out, that would be, like I said, a center turn lane running down 134th, a center turn lane in 64th with, a lane going each way. So it's like a 3-lane road essentially.
Is 68 feet the minimum required in an ASHTO, or is that?
That's from our transportation master plan. For you, that's our minor collector street standard there. So that's just to give you the full kind of picture, that's a 5-foot sidewalk, 5-foot park strip, 11-foot travel lanes with a 12-foot center turn lane. And then you've got a 4.5-foot shoulder. And then of course your 2.5 feet of curb and gutter.
So Josh, is there anything that can be done now as they're building? Because I mean, if we're going to add those homes, if they're coming east on 134th, because there's not a turn lane there.
Yes.
There's not a turn lane there right now, correct? They just come straight through, right?
Yeah, just a center
There's
line.
not, I think we should probably, Blake and Jonathan and I were talking about this before the meeting. I think we should probably get enough asphalt on the south side of 134th to at least get, if you can visualize this, if you're going eastbound on 134th, so you'd have like a straight / right turn there going eastbound. And then we would have, have the westbound lane, obviously, there along the frontage of this new project, and then get that center turn lane put into. It's, with the comments from the residents there and the issues that have been brought up, I think that'd be a good idea.
So are you talking about below, I guess, east? Yeah, you said east of Holiday. Because right now, like what the residents said is true. Like if you're going to turn left and you're heading west, it gets backed up because there's not enough space because it skinny's right there after you pass Holiday. Are you talking about improving that part of the road as well?
I was only talking about improvements on the west side of the 64th intersection. I wasn't talking about anything over on the east side of 64th. Can we bring up one of those site plans again so we have something to kind of reference as we talk? Michael, is that something you can do?
Yeah, Mitch is gonna bring that up, I think. It's that subdivision, right? The other option is we could have this conversation, this part of the conversation, when we talk about the subdivision
We
itself.
could have this in the subdivision.
I don't know if that is really germane to the general plan amendment.
Good point. Josh, do you want to come back to that? Because that's in the subdivision. I think we'll come back to that then, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. That sounds good.
Yeah, hang tight. So that's a little bit on me. Let's stick to the general, any comments pertaining to the general plan amendment then, at this point?
Yeah, so I love the plan. I think it's looking amazing. But in the last meeting, we talked about we proposed that the lots in the northeast area that are abutting the other homes should be half-acre lots because of those other houses in the A1 zone. And I think that, we need to make sure that we're creating the buffer and a good transition to the 8.25. So I think that's something to consider. Maybe we could approve pieces of this within the 8.25, but I think for some of those properties that we need to put it at 0.50.
Yeah, it looks like all the properties that are west abutting the existing properties are 0.5.
Yeah, I think the ones to the west, they changed. But if you're looking up at lots 9 through 4, I think. There's existing properties up at the top there. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on what you think.
Would that be something we could hit with the subdivision too, Michael?
I think so. I think that's more subdivision.
Is that more subdivision related? Heather, can we come back to that? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm just wondering though, if we're gonna approve this all as 0.25, rather than
see what
adding in
you're-
that 0.50 for the change.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So 0.5 along that west side.
I just would like to see it just where the houses are on the northeast side.
So again, there'll be 3 different motions here. We're not wrapping these up into one. You know, the general plan is to go from a residential to an agricultural land use. It doesn't establish really the density. It does have a target range of density, but it doesn't establish the regulations. The zoning ordinance that will be next, you maybe could look at a zoning condition if you wanted to add that to the 8.25. I imagine there's some lots that are less than a half acre in the plan, and that's probably one reason why they didn't ask for an 8.5, even though their overall density is 2 units per acre. But again, that would probably be more on a zoning recommendation and not the general plan.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Michael.
Any other comments pertaining to the general plan amendment? And I would just comment here for those in attendance here and those that might be watching virtually. What you'll hear tonight, these first 2 motions by the Planning Commission are recommendations to the City Council. These motions that we make tonight, whether we motion to approve or deny, it's not the final decision. It is, this moves on to a final decision by the City Council. I would encourage you to stay involved in that, watch for that meeting to come up at the City Council, and then I would invite you to comment there as well, just so they hear these same concerns. So just so you're aware of what we're voting on tonight. So.
Yeah, I just have one final comment. I mean, I really appreciate what the landowner and builders are trying to do here, because we've seen a lot of high-density townhomes going in around us, and I feel like they've really strived to make a development that can be long-term, right? Where people are going to move there and want to stay there for a long time, instead of coming into the city and just leaving as soon as they can.
And I think we've talked as a commission, this is a much needed inventory in our city. We need this level of upward mobility, I guess, for those that might be looking for another option to stay. We've had a lot of people need to leave the city because they want those 3rd acre, half acre lots, and they're tough to come by. So I'm thrilled. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I'd like to, make a request to the City Council for approval of the general plan amendment.
Okay, motion by Brody.
I'll second the motion.
A second by Jackson. Do a roll call vote. Brody?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
And this is general plan, so I will also vote yes. So that motion carries 6-0. Recommend approval to the City Council for the general plan amendment. Okay, at this point, we'll move on to item 4.3. Same item. This is the zoning map amendment of A1 to A25 and C2. So we'll turn to staff for any additional information.
Okay, so I'll be brief since we are familiar with this. So again, the property is currently zoned A1, 1 acre minimum. As we talked about, this general plan currently is 1.8 to 2.5, but it's specific to low-density residential. The rezone includes 31.9 acres. That would be proposed to have 30.4 acres of 8.25, and then 1.5 acres would be C2 on the corner. Again, this is the overall map of the city. You can see this a little closer. And 6400 West, the red square kind of in the middle, that's the corner commercial. Again, this was advertised for a public hearing, and the recommendation is for approval based on consistency of the prior action of the general plan amendment.
Right. Okay, thank you, Michael. Mr. Neal, would you like to, any additional information on this item?
Yeah, just to address the northeast side and then the west with the larger half-acre lots. I believe the code requires 7 half-acre lots to provide as a buffer, to give the half-acre buffer. So we did add that, and I think we actually had 8 of them, not 7. We did more than what the zoning required. And then just to make you aware, lots on lots that northeast line, the Butterfield family who owns this acreage, Preston Butterfield's family, they are the owners of that lot, of that 5 acres. That's their home for the farm, and they're in support of the subdivision. So also so that 4 or 5 of those lots border the selling family's property. So just for any other questions, I don't know, but.
I appreciate that because I know sometimes we look at,
Yeah.
zones and how they
Yeah,
kinda
and we've met
conform
with
what's
every
around them.
single family around, and
Yeah.
probably everybody to every adjoining property, with the exception of maybe these 2 acre lots on are going to develop at some point, right? Because the Steele property is on the north property line, Farley and Rushton, and those are all will be on not in the near future, probably a very near future, be brought before you to be developed also. So, and then the Butterfield property, the only reason they didn't sell that one to us too, I believe, is because it's where their family currently lives, but they own that I think it's like 5.6 something acres is left over that they own that's in front of lots, I think 5 or 4 through 9.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay, I think we're good, Jeff. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we will open the public hearing for item 4.3. Wendy, I'll turn to you first. Any other additional on this? Okay, thank you. Then we will turn to the public. If there are any comments, any additional comments relating to this item? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public hearing on item 4.3. Look to the commission for any other comments, concerns.
I'd like to get some, comments from the staff regarding Silver Peak Road. I think it was Boyd Hamilton that brought up that goes directly, the lights would go directly into his home. I'm curious if, it's tough because obviously new roads need to be built. Just curious about the consideration of another cul-de-sac versus access and the thoughts behind that.
Hi, Brody. This is Josh again. So there is a way to do that to get a cul-de-sac over there. One of the issues we ran into, we have to have 2 entrances into a project when there's more than 30 lots. We've had this recently on some other projects. So that roundabout kind of acts as a single entrance into there, even with one entrance off of 64th and one off 134th. When they both connect at that roundabout, it essentially turns it into one entrance. I was going to mention this when we were talking about the subdivision because then we'd have the plat in front of us. But I don't see a reason why we couldn't turn the road that connects into the roundabout into a cul-de-sac if that is something there's a strong preference for. If it met over there, we would still have 2 entrances, if that makes sense.
I have a question. So if they built 61 homes, would they have to add another entrance?
No, it's just 30 homes is the only, that's the big hurdle is the 30 homes you need two entrances at that point, but they would not need a second entrance for 60 plus homes, or I'm sorry, a third entrance.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And Josh, isn't that requirement there because of the fire department? They want to have multiple accesses?
Yep, that's exactly right. That is a unified fire requirement. The first version of this we saw, there were, at that point, there was only a single entrance off 134th, and it was meeting at that roundabout. So that's when the another entrance is brought in, and so that's kind of where we got to where we are now.
If I
Now,
may,
with the new access to the north, could that count as the second access?
Yes, if that road was built today, it could. I guess it comes down to a question of timing. Could they get that road built now or not?
there's a couple of other issues, if I may. So there is there's a need to relocate an irrigation line. And some of the road alignment is trying to accommodate that. And so Silver Peak Road is part of that solution. I know that the developer worked very closely with the owners of that irrigation line and to navigate, the radiuses of that line as it turns and where it's placed in the subdivision, how it's maintained. So a change to the road layout would have a big impact on that part of the equation as well. Another thing, we heard some concern about backing or stacking. If you have more opportunities, more choices as far as moving through a subdivision, you tend to not concentrate traffic. If you have fewer places to have ingress and egress, you actually do concentrate that, and you actually create more more traffic, more opportunities for conflict. Typically, if you have more options, you can disperse the traffic. That's usually a better solution in a neighborhood if you're concerned with that issue.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do like about it is, it's not as close to the intersection, so I feel like that provides a little bit of safety there as well.
And I think we can come back to some of this with the subdivision too and really fine tune some of this. I think as far as the rezone, it fits the general plan now, and it fit it before. I mean, it fits what it's been calling out for. So that's my biggest reason to be on board with this. It fits the general plan.
Michael, if we wanted to put a maximum amount of houses that will be allowed on this, is this the time to add that in with the motion?
As far as a
Number of
zoning
lots?
condition,
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering if that would qualify under our zoning condition standards. I think you can limit the density, but I don't know that we could specify a lot. Yeah, right.
I love where they're at. I just don't want them to add any more. I think that the current plan looks great. I think I'm happy with that.
Okay, well, this time I would look for a motion from the commission if we're comfortable to go that route. And again, this is a recommendation to the city council.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the zoning amendment as noted in the staff recommendations.
Motion by
I'll second that.
Motion by Jackson, second by Heather. Do a roll call vote. Brody?
Yes to the item.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
And Joy?
Yes.
Okay, so item 4.3 passes by a vote of 5-0. I recommend approval of the zoning map amendment. Okay, at this point then, we will bounce back to item 3.2 on the agenda. This item is again on for a public hearing. This is the subdivision. Preliminary approval of the reserve at Sky Ranch subdivision. Approved of 60 single-family lots, 1 commercial lot and a detention lot. I will turn to staff.
Okay, now is the time to roll up your sleeves and, and talk about all those little details. Again, the recommendation that is before you tonight on this particular item, the Planning Commission is the final decision-making body for an administrative review. However, this project is dependent on those previous 2 motions that you just made. Those have to be decided upon by the City Council in order to establish the rules for development. So the recommendation before you tonight is to table this request. We're asking you to very specifically give us direction as to how you handle the next step, and we'll talk more about that. So again, the proposal has 62 lots. 60 lots are for single-family homes, 1 lot is for detention, and 1 commercial lot in the project. The city map, a little closer. And bring up this next image. There we go. This is the preliminary subdivision plat. Again, that's consistent with some of the images we've seen earlier. You'll notice that there's been concern again about this widening of the rights-of-way along 6400 West and 134th. Part of the widening on 6400 West is to accommodate this larger landscape buffer. That's one of the density bonus opportunities. That 10-foot buffer along 6400 West is consistent with some of the other newer projects that have been built in that neighborhood. And so staff is supporting that because that is, again, consistent with the streetscape that we've been building in the city. And then the 134th is, as you heard from our engineer, that's just consistent with the city's transportation master plan. A little closer look at the size of the lots. You can see again some larger lots on the west side of this project. Again, that's another one of those density bonus criteria that is included in your staff report. Landscaping plan. One thing that has been discussed that we haven't really resolved is maintenance of the detention. I think at this point in time, the developer is planning on improving the property and dedicating it to the city. So the city would be maintaining it if the city agrees to accept it. And then, of course, the landscape buffers on the periphery. We haven't really resolved the issue of how to manage the roundabout. I presume that, again, that would be part of the public right-of-way. These are public streets. And then that would be part of the city's maintenance as well. So what we're asking you to look at these 4 very similar motions, but we want to know how to handle the public hearing. Is it your decision following the public hearing tonight to close the hearing, or do we want to continue the hearing? If we continue the hearing, we have an option of continuing to a specific date. If you continue it to a specific date, we're not obligated as a city to actually renotice. We don't have to mail anything out because we've already communicated to the public what that date's going to be. But obviously, this is dependent on the city council action, and there's no guarantee as far as how quickly that will happen. If we continue it for an unknown date, then we will renotice. We'll mail out letters again to the residents. So those are just some different combinations as to whether or not you want to hold the hearing open, close the hearing, but give us direction as to what you expect us to do in next steps.
Okay, Mr. Neal, if you'd like to come forward again, if there's anything you'd like to add on this.
Dave Frice with Frice Development Group and Elevation Homes. I'm one of Mr. Neal's partners. Maybe just in consideration, the roundabout, we're gonna try to hardscape, so there won't be much maintenance to the roundabout. You know, we've really gone, tried to go above and beyond to just comply with what the Planning Commission's requests were and the DRC. So I think we've got a really good project here, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions specific to the project.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Price?
Is there an HOA associated with this?
There is not.
All public, correct? All public right-of-ways, public roads, everything, okay? Okay, well, if you don't mind standing by, we'll have the public hearing, and then we might call you back up to address any concerns that might get raised. So, thanks, Dave. Okay, at this point, we will open the public hearing, and Wendy has one item to read.
This comment was received from Philip Peterson. He stated, if they are going to develop the northwest corner of 13400 South and Rose Canyon Road, make sure the developer provides enough setback along the city streets so the intersection can have the alignment of the southbound lane fixed and the widening of the roads accomplished without having to buy houses and backyards in the future. Will this development necessitate the intersection improvements as the traffic demands increase? He stated, I am glad they will be low density, and he supports that portion of the plan.
Perfect. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, at this point, I would turn to the public here for any comments you might have on this subdivision.
My name is Christopher McMurran. I'm representing my father, David McMurran. He lives at 13344 Rose Canyon Road. If we could get the plan back up on the TV, that'd be great. So lots 1 through 5, plus the water retention land, will be against our property that we currently live at. One main concern is mosquitoes. If the water does build up, or there's a high amount of moisture that does come in, typically like in the spring or anything like that, I just want to make sure that the water is going to adequately drain, and I'm not going to be, having to like put up a bunch of pest control and be infested with mosquitoes. And then again, would really appreciate it if they would put a precast wall around our property. There's going to be 5 lots in total that will be against our property. We have barbed wire fence along the back side and down the side. So I'd hate for little Johnny to break through the flimsy vinyl fence and get cut, or a dog or an animal from these properties get tangled in something like that. So again, a precast wall would be what I would like to see. That'd be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Kenny Alton again. We haven't addressed any of the agriculture or walkways or horse trails, walking trails. There's nothing provided in this plan. So I think, again, we need to look at that. One thing we're totally missing is the commercial on the corner there. How are they going to access that from both 6400 and 134th, right on the corner where the major issues are with the traffic? It's right on the corner, so that's just going to create havoc. Even we don't know what's going to be in there, but it doesn't matter what's gonna be there. If you have traffic coming in and out there, it's gonna delay and cause issues with the timing on the lights and traffic during rush hour. So I think that's something we gotta look at, because there's no other entranceway to that except for those two roads. But, so I think both of those issues need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd look for some guidance from the commission on,
Yeah, I have a couple comments before hopefully we make a motion to do something. Just curious, the intersection improvement, kind of what the timing of that is? Because it feels like it goes backwards most of the time, where the improvements come in long after all the houses are in there. So just curious what the timing is there from the staff.
So this is Josh in engineering again. I think timing on at least getting this, it built out closer to the intersection, so getting that middle turn lane in on that westbound, or I'm sorry, on the eastbound leg of 134th. I think we'd want to see that being done here up front with the project, as well as some restriping there, just to line up those lanes a little better as you go through the intersection. So we would just see a little asphalt going in on the south side of 134th to get that portion widened up just a little bit to get that third lane in down there. So I like I said, I think we'd want to see that kind of up front.
You by chance know what the timing is kind of east of Holiday? The reason I bring that up is it just feels like that gets stacked up with people trying to turn left currently.
You know, I don't have any information on timing east of Holiday. I don't know if there's any capital projects planned or anything of that level over there. I'm not aware of anything that's, you know, not kind of directly related along the frontage of this project that we're looking at tonight.
Josh, what's that cost to change that to? Because I don't believe there's a left-hand turn arrow there, correct? Right now, off of 134th?
There's not currently on 134th on the west side of 64th. It's just two lanes there right now. We wouldn't be looking at doing curb and gutter on the south side of 134th at this time. It'd just be putting in enough asphalt to get that kind of third lane in there. You know, I don't have a cost right now, but you know, it wouldn't be a full build out where they are doing the full build out on the north side and on the west side of 64th, you know, along their frontage, but so.
Yeah, another piece kind of with roads as well is they brought up just the widening of the road on 134. When they dedicated the land to an expansion of the road, what compensation typically is given?
Yeah, in terms of this project, I believe it kind of goes into their density a little bit on the dedication. So there's no compensation as far as, you know, financial or anything like that. If that answers your question.
I'm just, yeah, I guess talking about the impact to the people that are on the other side of the road, south, I guess at the south of 134.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any compensation on the south side of the road. Typically, you know, if they weren't developing and if the city did want to go out and widen the road, you know, we would meet with them and try to establish a fair market value and work with them if the city was planning on or was wanting to purchase property, but that's not really what we're talking about here tonight.
So we're getting enough dedicated from this development on the, I guess, north side to minimize that?
we're getting on the north side what we need to get the, to get that center turn lane
Yeah.
in the future. We do already have I was told by Jonathan and Blake that we have the right of way along the corner that we need to at least get that kind of straight / right turn lane in that we talked about.
Okay.
So in looking at the plan here, Josh, it says 33 feet from property to boundary line. Is that enough to get the full 68 feet? How much is going?
I'm glad you brought that up. So we already have the, kind of backing up a little bit, we already have the right of way on the south side of the road on 134th that we need. We do have a slight oversight though on the dedication on this project that we're talking about. We had them show 33 feet on the plat. It needs to be an extra foot. So that is something I wanted to bring up. We do need 34 feet. And they're showing 33 feet right now. So that's something that we missed.
Okay. Could it be 35 feet and then it doesn't do anything to the neighbors on the south? Or does that throw things out of alignment?
I think there's other things I'd rather do than do that.
Okay.
Maybe shorten up a park strip or something like that before we, offset the road by a foot.
Okay.
Just really quick too, there were a couple other comments that I wouldn't mind addressing really fast. Is that okay?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. There was a comment regarding the detention pond and the possibility of nuisance with mosquitoes. We do require a storm drain line to go through between where the water enters that detention pond and where it exits, so you won't see standing water over there. I know that's a big issue, and we do require that nuisance line to prevent that from happening. So I just wanted to mention that really fast. And that's all.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh. Let's bounce back to the public hearing aspect of this. Look for some guidance from the commission.
I think we should keep it open.
I agree, just without unknown date, so that people can still make comments. I just feel like there's a lot that's that the city council is going to go through, and if they make changes, I feel like it's fair to have the public be able to make another comment if it's changed, instead of saying it's closed and they went and made modifications to the zoning and now we can't say anything about it. So that's what I feel.
I would agree. Okay, I would accept a motion along those lines then.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing, table the proposal, and direct staff to reschedule the application for consideration at a future public date that is unknown.
Second.
Are we tabling the motion though? Is that just,
Did I say it wrong?
I just want to make sure we did it right.
Continuing it. I guess we're continuing it.
Yeah, continue with outdate.
Are we looking to continue the item right now too? Without further discussion, or I was just looking for public comment, for the public comment. I think,
okay.
I think we need to dig in a little bit more on, there's a few more things I'd like to.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. So would you mind making a motion just to close the public hearing without, or not, to keep it open without date? Heather?
Make a motion to close.
To keep the public hearing open without date.
Okay, I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing open without date.
Perfect. Motion by Heather.
I'll second that.
Second by Brody. Do a roll call vote real quick, Brody.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Andrea.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
And Joy.
Yes.
Okay, so we will keep the public hearing open without date. So we will renotice that for the public. You will hear, you will get another notice when this comes back before us. Any other items we want to dig into right now before we make a motion? Josh, I wanted to bring you back in on the 3 entrances again, and maybe we can bring up the applicant again too. What's your opinion on the 3? I know we kind of discussed it, but I don't know if we came to a real resolution. What's the preference there?
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have a preference personally, but can we go back a slide or two to the sheet where we can really see the street names?
Let's see. Control Mitch.
It's easier to, actually call the street names by what okay, there we go. That's perfect. So, if we were to eliminate a road, and turn one into a cul-de-sac, it would have to be Sky Ranch Road. And the reason why that goes back to that roundabout being the single point of access out of there. So Silver Peak Road has to connect to 134th and Elk Creek has to connect. There's really no reason why Sky Ranch Road has to, in terms of access for fire. So if it became a cul-de-sac, I personally, don't have a problem or see an issue with that from an engineering standpoint. The other issue Michael brought up was the irrigation line being relocated through the property, and it is Silver Peak Road that is running down. So that would keep that irrigation line in service as well. So as far as engineering goes, that's kind of what I see. I guess personally, maybe having that third entrance just helps the neighborhood connectivity. But as far as the fire access issue, Silver Peak and Elk Creek are the 2 that we absolutely have to have.
Elimination of Sky Ranch Road would have a big impact, though, because properties have to have frontage. And so if you eliminate that road, you can't, lots 42 and 45, it wouldn't have any frontage. 41, and maybe, and 46, those wouldn't exist, at least in this layout. So
I'm
there'd
sorry,
have to be a
Michael.
change.
I wasn't
Yeah.
implying we get rid of the road, just that it would go down and cul-de-sac in front of lot 43 and 44. The road would definitely have to be there.
For circulation purposes, it makes sense to have the additional access. Because I think the concern was Silver Peak just going directly into someone's, their vehicle lights going directly into their home, but that seems to be the one that we need.
Yeah, that has to.
We can't play with.
So I think that would minimize traffic by having multiple entrances and egress and ingress.
And I agree with that.
I was just curious about Lot 3, the configuration of it and the driveway, if that's going to be on the southeast piece or how that would function around that roundabout.
Yeah, we did look at that. The driveway would have to be over there on the far east side of Lot 3 off of the Elk Creek Drive there.
Okay.
We could look at that, make sure that really does work. We could look and see if there's an opportunity to refine that and make that better.
And I don't know who to.
I believe Bryce did look at it to at least make sure it met a minimum distance from where you enter into the cul-de-sac.
I don't know who to address this to, but there was brought up the concern about some horse trails in the area. I'm not familiar with anything, so I can't really speak to that. I don't know if anybody can speak to any trails.
Yeah, typically we would ask for a trail improvement if it was consistent with our master plan or if it was something we had anticipated. That did not come up in our internal review. We could double check with our parks department or reach out to the neighborhood and see if there is something that we've missed. But yeah, that was not something we identified on the staff level.
Have you guys looked at, I don't know, because each subdivision would kind of look at a central gathering place. I don't know if it makes sense to move the detention pond to Lot 3. But then with that being said, I know selling corner lots is not easy on main roads. So just a thought there of, some gathering place for the subdivision.
I like that idea.
Just an idea. I really like where I live. There's a park around our subdivision, and it creates a central gathering place. But these lots are larger, and so, I mean, that is, you have your own recreation behind your home typically, but.
So one thing, maybe think about this the next time we meet, and we'll do more analysis on this in the next staff report, but I combed through the entire Title 10 and tried to pick out all of the standards that are relative to subdivision design. So in trying to achieve a goal like that, we should be pointing to something in the ordinance that says this is something that the city's trying to do, or you're even obligated to do it in order to get approval.
Mm-hmm.
If there isn't a standard that requires it, that's a big ask, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to make that a requirement if it's not in the code.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And there was a comment mentioned about the commercial. That will come back. Like, there will be a plat that comes back to us that will address egress and ingress as far as the commercial, so that will.
And light pollution.
And light
stuff like
pollution,
that.
so that will all come back to us as we will keep that. We'll be vigilant on that as well. So just so you know, we're not just brushing by that.
One item I wanted to kind of discuss is, I know the developer talked about putting the fence far enough away from existing fences, which I'm curious, we have a standard of no double fencing. So I don't know if we have a buffer between one fence type to the other, but I share the concern of the residents that if they have large animals, a vinyl fence is not a good material to have.
And that is one condition that we do allow double fencing if it is a fence that's necessary for large animal, control or restrictions, so.
Okay.
And code just requires vinyl, correct? So we can't, as a commission, we can't require more than.
Yeah, we only
Large
require the
animal.
masonry if
Yeah.
it's between incompatible uses, which is commercial and residential. So obviously around parcel A,
Yeah.
we will see that. And then we also require it along limited or roads that have restrictive access. So 134th, we'll see a wall there too.
Okay, I just want to make it clear that as a commission, we can't require that, just so the public knows that we cannot require that at this point.
Unless it can be justified, like I said, by the ordinance.
Right.
So.
Okay, any other concerns to bring up tonight before we give them some ideas on how to move forward? Okay, that being said, I'd look for a motion to, as we talked about, continuing this for a future date, for a future meeting.
Yep.
Without date, probably.
Right, so we'll renotice this hearing for a future meeting.
Okay, I'll go at it again. So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing, table the proposal, and direct staff to reschedule the application for consideration at a future public hearing, date unknown.
Look at you. Motion by Heather, thank you.
Second.
Second by, who is that? Is that Joy?
Andrea.
Andrea. Second
Sorry,
by Andrea. Do a roll call vote. Brody,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
and Joy.
Yes.
Okay, so item 3.2 by 5-0 is being continued, tabled until, without date. Okay, at this point, any comments or from the commission at this point?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'd like to, as a planning commission, look at adding additional features like central gathering places for subdivision, or not subdivisions, but the number of lots. I think that's necessary when we get over, 40, I don't know what the number is. Maybe it's acreage, maybe it's number of lots, but that we create a central gathering place so that it creates more community within our community.
So talking about a future bringing that up
Yeah.
in ordinances, okay? Okay, seeing no other comments at this time. Future meetings, January 27th will be a city council meeting. Our next planning commission meeting will be on Thursday, February 4th, followed by another city council meeting on February 10th. And with that, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is that Heather?
Yep.
Motion by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Moved. Thank you for being here tonight, everybody. We appreciate your attendance and comments.
Good job, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm done. Never again. Somebody else's turn next time.
I don't know, you might be on the nomination list.